Ethan, 30-year-old man, and his wife Lila, also 30-year-old, tied the knot after a long-term relationship. They'd been a couple for 6 years and engaged for 3, postponing their wedding twice due to COVID. Lila had always battled mental health challenges, depression, ADHD, and anxiety, but over time, her struggles seemed to intensify, especially during the pandemic. Isolation during lockdowns deeply affected her, compounded by anxiety from a family health crisis. Around this time, she lost her job but quickly secured remote work, though the irregular hours added instability. Ethan did his utmost to support her, and she often credited him as the sole person who made her believe in her potential. At some point, however, that sentiment faded. A few months after their wedding, Lila contracted COVID and suffered prolonged symptoms. Recovery was grueling, both physically and emotionally. Just as she regained stability, she caught the virus again, reigniting the cycle. This time, they managed the ordeal slightly better, but the cumulative stress took its toll. Post-recovery, they became vigilant, masking rigorously, dining indoors only for special occasions, and braving outdoor seating even in winter. Yet after a second bout of COVID, Lila plunged into the worst depressive episode Ethan had witnessed. She took a leave from work, and Ethan shouldered everything. Cooking, chores, and his full-time job. During her leave, Lila showed flickers of improvement. She dabbled in hobbies and classes, but yoga became her only constant. Her sleep cycle, shattered by depression, left her awake late into the night, napping sporadically and attending evening yoga sessions. After class, she'd often announce plans, meeting classmates at a bar, sketching at a cafe, or reflecting on therapy. She'd promised to return in an hour or two, but nights always ended the same. Text about needing more time until bars closed, followed by a tipsy return home. Ethan saw this as a harmful coping mechanism, worsening her sleep and depriving her of daylight. Critical for mental health. He voiced his concerns gently, but Lila bristled at his feedback. He journaled about it, urged her to discuss it with her therapist, and brought it up in their couples counseling. Yet their sessions focused only on his communication tactics, how to avoid triggering her past trauma or de-escalate conflicts, valuable skills, but not addressing his unmet needs. But this time it crossed a line. During Lila's nights out, men would approach her. One persisted until she gave in, kissing him. She shared a secondary email address, and they began meeting secretly, first for passionate encounters, then for intimacy. She also connected with 2 others, claiming she sought purely physical relationships, though she insists they never slept together, exchanging explicit messages and pleasuring herself to their words. Ethan uncovered the truth by accident. While charging her phone during a nap, the screen lit up with a strange notification. They had an open device policy, so he tapped it without suspicion, until the message's content shattered him. Heart pounding, he discovered emails from the man in her rarely used account. He forwarded them to himself, preserving proof. When Lila woke, they confronted the betrayal in tears. Ethan felt hollow, devastated. She wept with apparent remorse, confessing she craved validation, a fleeting sense of youth and desire. "I'm broken," she said. "I never wanted anyone but you. I've ruined us." Despite the pain, Ethan chose to fight. For her mental health, for their marriage. The following day passed in a haze of fragile reconciliation. After her therapy session, Lila relayed her therapist's perspective. This wasn't her, as she'd never done such a thing before. She felt stifled and starved for attention. The work leave had benefited her mental state. True, Ethan agreed. His discovery method invaded her privacy, but her tone shifted, defensive, almost accusatory, as if blaming him. Ethan bristled at her lack of guilt. In the days after, she seemed to reclaim accountability, rekindling his hope. Then, 5 days post-discovery, she attended yoga and afterward needed space to think about her job. Again, she delayed returning home. Again, the excuses piled up. Ethan insisted, "You can't repeat the same patterns that led to cheating. How can I trust you?" With her location visible, he went to the bar where she lingered. Face to face, he pleaded. She coldly insisted she return by 2 a.m. He left. She'd come home later, likely faithful this time, but the wound remained raw. After their joint counseling session, Lila had another therapy appointment later that day. Since then, she's barely been home. She offers vague explanations, dinner with a friend, but no details. I need space, she insists. She returns late, sleeps on the couch until Ethan wakes, then retreats to their bed until leaving again. Based on their therapy discussions, Ethan suspects she'll demand changes to avoid feeling confined. But I don't want to cage her, he thinks. I want her healthy, stable, choosing us. She still texts, I love you, but hasn't spoken the words aloud in a week. Fear claws at him. Is she drifting toward separation? It's not just his heart at stake. She's battled suicidal thoughts. He just needs her to be okay. He wonders if she's casting him as the villain in her parents' troubled marriage script. Every gesture, support, concern, now reads as controlling or irritating. Her therapist, hearing only Lila's side, might be nudging her toward independence. Ethan doesn't blame the therapist. Lila omitted her 2-month affair and bar hopping from those sessions. How much else went unmentioned? At their next couple session, he braces for an ultimatum. She's leaving, and if I object, I'm the jailer again. How did love unravel like this? Their therapist had clarified. Her feeling trapped doesn't mean you're her captor. Yet Lila, who's long felt steamrolled in conversations, now digs in her heels. The timing feels cruel. After her infidelity, his behavior is the focus. He fears 2 futures, losing her and rebuilding alone, or surrendering and cementing her belief that he's controlling. Either way, her resentment might poison them. He's no saint. Their pre-affair therapy sessions existed for a reason. His combative streak, her trauma-triggered panic during conflicts. He's worked hard to soften his approach, but progress isn't perfection. Above all, he wants her happy and whole. How can she mistake that for control? Why can't she see her coping, midnight bars, emotional affairs, as a crisis, not his plea for home by 12 on weekdays to protect her mental health? Writing this, Ethan feels detached, the words dripping like ice water. He's tried so hard to listen, even when she misreads his tone as combat or conquest. It's their oldest wound, and now it's the knife twisting deepest. She truly believes I want to dominate her. He realizes, not guide, not partner, control,